Hi, everyone. Just wanted to let you know that I will be recording this session. So that would be one. And again, thank you all for coming. So we'll just start in a couple of minutes. I hope everyone and their families are safe in these times. And I hope everyone is taking good care. So essentially, this would just be an introduction to storyboarding. I know it's like a very, very vast topic. So, in this session, I will try to basically touch upon the various aspects of storyboarding. And thank you so much. Yeah, I'm also doing great. And again, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can type them in the chat, and by the end of the session we'll have a 10-minute Q&A session. So any questions that we have during the entire presentation, we can try to answer them, and I'll try to answer like most of them. But for the others, if I'm unable to answer, I'll be sharing my email address, so you can email me the questions and I'll try to get back to you with answers. So we have Anita, Parajita, we have Chris, Holly, Jessica, Shweta, Soria, Zaki. All of you welcome. We can just give everyone another minute, and then we can start at 10, because there is a lot that I'm trying to cover in this 1 hour. I know storyboarding, again, it's such a vast and a big topic. It's we'll just try to, again, like I said, touch on various topics. And then if we feel that there is something which all of you kind of collectively feel that we need to kind of, we need some more information, or we want something more for that particular topic, then I can kind of try to plan some future webinars just for those individual topics. So this one, what uh, today we'll cover, it'll just be like an introductory session. It would be more of the basics of what storyboarding is, and what elements do we use, and how do we kind of put together something. But again, if any more details are required, anything that you feel that yes, this needs, we need to have a deeper dive of any topic, you can just list that out, and in the chat window, then we can see by the end of the session if we need to kind of work on that as well. So I think I'll begin now. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to, share some of the information and that I've assimilated. So for myself, my name is Parul Sharma, and I am the principal instructional designer with Techni Incorporation, and we're a Florida-based e-learning company, and we design customized e-learning solutions for companies. So I've been in this field for over 18 years now, and I have been like very fortunate to work with a lot of amazing people, very talented people, great mentors. So during this presentation, it's just like whatever I have gained, by working through the weeds, and learning from people and learning from different, situations. So I'm just trying to share the knowledge that I kind of assimilated over this 18-year-old period. So we'll just start. So basically, what is a storyboard? So before that, let's kind of discuss what we're going to cover. I've divided it into two parts, part one and part two. So part one, here we'll just kind of list the elements of a storyboard, where we'll see what the identifiers are and what the slide parts are. Then we learn how to create a color scheme for your storyboard. We'll also we won't create actually, but I'll just show you like what a style guide or a color scheme comprises of. I'll be sharing links to particular websites that I have been using throughout, and I will also be sharing this presentation along with the recording. I'll be posting it in our Facebook group, so you will have access to all the websites that I've used, this presentation, as well as some additional presentations that I have kind of included in this presentation. So you will have all that material available with you. So we'll kind of see how a color scheme is created. We'll see how you can create a style guide. That will include, the typography, titles, primary, secondary colors. Then we'll have a short Q&A session, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see if there are any questions pertaining to this. We can do that, or we can move on to the next part, which is we'll be outlining the 4 basic principles that we use for storyboarding. Then we'll identify the types of visual designs that you can select based on your content type. And then finally, it'll be like, designing the storyboard, which is like culmination of whatever we have done. And then we have the Q&A session. So I know this is like a very vast, area of topics that we're trying to cover. So I'll try my best to, include each and every topic and try to cover that. But in case if we kind of run out of time, or if we feel that, we need more time, like I said earlier, we can plan for something else. I can plan for another webinar where we can take on those topics and continue from there. And please in the chat let me know if I'm like talking too fast, because I do have a tendency to talk fast when I kind of get happy or excited about something. And storyboarding is one thing which I really enjoy doing. So just please let me know, and you can say, Parul, just slow down a little bit. We can't get you. So we start with like, what is actually a storyboard? So this definition, this is not a textbook definition which I'll be giving, but this is what I have, as per my knowledge, as per my experience. It helps us bring content to life, any kind of content. It's a visual storytelling method. You share your vision with your clients. You tell them that this is how I think your course should look like. Then you obtain their feedback, you give it to them, and then they say, I like it or I don't like it, or you kind of course correct. So basically, storyboard is nothing but it's a way that we share as instructional designers. We share our perspective and our vision with the client, and we take their feedback and we incorporate that feedback, so that even before the production starts, even before we go into the authoring tool, we have everything in place. So we don't need to go back and forth. Because I know one problem that as IDs, like I've also faced, is you go directly into a tool like Storyline, and then you start doing stuff, and the client starts moving the slides around, and then links get broken, and then it really becomes really messy. So storyboard using PowerPoint is one way to avoid all that kind of mess and have everything in place before we even actually go into production. So we'll start with what are the various elements of a storyboard. So what all goes into a storyboard? Now the storyboard has a functional aspect, it has a design aspect, and it has a content aspect. The functional aspect is how will it work? How will it function? What are the elements? The design aspect is how does it look like? Visually, is it looking good? How is it looking? Is it looking pretty? And the content is, even if you have the visual elements in place, you have the structure in place, is the content coming through? Are you being able to pick up the content and translate it in a way visually appealing, in an aesthetically appealing way, with the structured content, and you're presenting that? So those are the 3 parts. For in this particular presentation, this seminar webinar, we'll just cover the first 2, the structure part of it and the visual design part of it. So what are the elements of a storyboard? So you have a course introduction slide. I assume everyone, all of us over here, we are aware of this. There's a course introduction slide, the welcome slide, the objectives, the menu slide, module introduction, content slides. You have your frame set slides. You have a divider slide, the quiz or the knowledge check introduction slides. Then you have these question slides. You have the results, the summary, as well as the resources. Now, what I do personally is that I always create one single slide of each in my presentation, in a blank presentation, so that I know these are the slides that I have to include. Basically, it gives me a structure to work with. So first of all, if we do this, we know that these are the various slides we have. Then you can keep on adding slides as per the need. So if you have a frame set slide, for example, or if you have multiple content slides, you can just kind of add them there, and your PowerPoint presentation still remains the same. I mean, it's there, and we don't need to kind of worry much about that. So here I will just show you a couple of examples of what these slides might look like. And all of them have been created in PowerPoint. And using the visual design, we'll see how we can actually do that. So like, for example, this one, a simple image with a square with this triangle and these rectangles here. Again, this one. Color schemes, we learn everything about how to design these. So course introduction slide can look something like this. Then the welcome slide, it can look something like this using images, or it can look something like this. So depending upon what type of templates and what type of colors we're using. Then the objective slides. I know most of us try using the target. It's always there. One side the target is there with the arrow right in the middle, and then you say, yeah, these are the objectives we want to meet. In addition to that, there are different ways in which we can present objectives. So it's not necessary that we have to stick to the target, slide at all times. So these are like two alternative ways in which we can actually present our objectives. Then the main menu slide. So these are some ways in which we can do that. Just so you can have your modules, you can have your images and everything. Again, like I said, all these elements, these little things here and here, everything has been created in PowerPoint. So we don't need a tool like Adobe Photoshop, because I know Photoshop is it's kind of complex for me. So I prefer working with simpler tools and things that I can control. So this is easy. And again, like something like this, which is very simple to design as well. Then we have a topic divider slide to have topics coming up. So how do you split them? So you can kind of use the same theme that you've been using, and you give a topic title here, a subtopic title there. I mean, whichever way you want to go, you can always do that. And then you have something similar like a content slide here. So again, these are like circles which I've used in simple shapes, and how when they click on that, what happens. So again, I have designed them using PowerPoint, just used imagery, simple images, and use simple circles. So this is the way. I mean, PowerPoint is, in fact, it's a very, very powerful tool which we can use, because they have actually improved PowerPoint so much. I remember a couple of years back, PowerPoint did not have the color picker tool. And when they introduced the color picker tool, I was like so happy, because you had to kind of figure out what is the color. You go to the web, then you put in the hex value, then you get the RGB value, then you come back to PowerPoint and then you type that in, and then the color would come. So for one or two colors, yes, that works. But for multiple colors, oh, that was really, really problematic. So I was very happy, when they introduced the color picker tool. So anyways, these are some of the content slides. Then these are some additional content slides. Again, everything has been designed using PowerPoint, and these are simple shapes which we can use, which we can overlay on images, on anything that we want. And then we can really come up with, great looking visuals. And you can also, this one especially, you can this one is a kind of an infographic which I've kind of imported, and then I can modify this. And this we can also create in PowerPoint. It's not that it cannot be done. Everything can be done in PowerPoint. And then your quiz and knowledge checks. So this is one way to do it. You can provide your instructions, whatever you want to give, like a quiz slide, knowledge check slide right here, or you can simply give this image right here and then have a box right here which says your instructions, and a quiz, a button which kind of clicks, and then they start their quiz. So alternative ways of adding these slides and making your course even look better. And then summary slide, again, you can have a summary slide like this, or you can have a summary slide like that. So sometimes a strategy that I've used in the past is what my objective slide looks like is what this objective slide will look like. My summary slide will look like. So I can do that as well. So this is just. So yes, so I'll be answering the questions. Like I said, for the people who joined, please, whatever questions you have, you can start typing that in the chat. So by the end of the session, we'll have a 10-minute Q&A session, and we can kind of, we can answer the questions there. So that would be the first part. Like these are the various types of identifiers. So we have a structure for the PowerPoint presentation. So we have the objectives, we have the summary, we have the content, we have the frame sets, and we have everything. So what are the parts of a slide? Again, this is more of a functional aspect. So within a slide, there can be an on-screen text, there can be slide type identifier, there can be a slide number, there are visualization notes and audio notes. Now if you are developing this PowerPoint yourself, it's very easy. You know what you've done, so you can open your PowerPoint, you can open your authoring tool, and you can copy paste or you can build that. But if there are multiple teams involved and you are part of the team which is just doing the storyboarding, or you've done the storyboarding and now you have to hand it over to someone else, would that person be able to understand what you have done? So for that part, we have to ensure that we have all the little placeholders in place, which will help anyone else other than us translate our storyboard. Yeah, any developer, you're right, Zachary. So any developer. So for that, for example, this is a slide. So we'll have multiple sections. So first of all will be the on-screen text, which is this event 2 and whatever this content is right here. Then you have your content slide. So again, this is very helpful. I've used this a couple of times. I always try to use it as much as possible, because this also gives me an indication as to what is there in my PowerPoint. And anyone who is using this PowerPoint, the developer who's using it will know, all right, this is a content slide. All right, this is an objective slide, or this is a knowledge check slide, or this is a summary slide, or this is a review slide. So it becomes very easy for anyone to kind of, look at this information and say, this is the way I can use it. Then over here, visualization notes. So over here, you can actually provide visualization notes for yourself or for anyone else. So I usually do this for myself as well, because when you are designing the storyboard, you are in that design mode, so you can kind of do a lot of stuff. But when you are kind of when you start developing it and you give it to someone else, then it becomes a different thing. Then you don't remember what you had done. So basically, you can kind of provide notes here, and then your audio notes can come here. You can say AD1 or AX1, whichever notation you feel comfortable in. So these are the various parts of a slide. And then, for example, a frame set slide. So what is a frame set slide? So if there is one slide which has multiple options and you want to link them together without giving them a new slide number, so that the developer or you knows that this is linked together, and this is like part of, maybe I'll take an example of articulate storyline. We all have heard the slides, the slide layer. We use a lot of layers within the slide to open up multiple options. So this is one way of telling the developer or yourself know that these have to be layers. There'll be a base slide, and 5A and 5B, 5C and 5D will be the layers of this base slide, which is 5A. So that way you've organized your storyboard in a way that you can actually translate that very easily. So this would be like an example of a frame set slide. And in your audio notes, you can say, like for 5A, you say this is the first slide of the frame set. For 5B, you can say this is the second slide of the frame set. So you will, and sometimes, see, if it's like a concept, it's like very easy. You can do that. But in case if it's a process which needs to be followed, it has to be, point number 1, then point number 2, then point number 3. You cannot mix that up and say first the point number 1 will come and then 3 will come. No. So in addition to giving these little indicators like 5A, 5B, within your audio notes, you can also, in your visualization notes, you can say this is the first slide of the frame set. This is the second slide. So it's like a double, we are kind of providing that additional information to the developer as well, or to ourselves as well. So this was like very quick and short, because I know most of us will be very familiar with these elements. So now coming to the main part, which is the colors, the typography, and the style guide. So for me, initially, whenever a project comes, or if I have to develop something, the first thing is like what colors will be used as part of my template, because this is a template which I'm designing for the authoring tool as well. So sometimes clients have, they have their own style guides. Sometimes they have their own branding colors, their uh, so the marketing team can share that with you. But sometimes these people don't have anything. They're like, we don't know what colors we want. We want nice colors. The typical client language, I would say that we don't know what we want. So as an instructional designer, you also need to ensure that the colors which you are using kind of gels with what the organization does, your client organization is and what it does, without the client telling you that, because they don't have that information. So for that, you need to always kind of, if they have a style guide, that is great. But if they don't have any colors or any preference for particular colors, you can create newer templates and color templates. Then the typography, yes, what type of fonts are you going to use, what will be the style of the font, stuff like that. And ultimately everything comes together to create a simple style guide. So in the colors, for your this is a particular link that you can use. This is the color wheel. I always use a color wheel because it kind of gives me, the variety of all the colors that are available. And I mean, like, their tints, their shades. If you can just look at it, it just gives you a very, very detailed outlook of what the colors look like. So there are two types of colors. They are the complementary colors and the contrasting colors. The complementary colors are the ones which are right opposite. So this one would be complementary to this, and orange would be complementary to something that is diametrically opposite to that. So that's how you read the color wheel. Anything that is diametrically opposite to something else would be a complementary color. So those two go well. So usually we have seen, blues and oranges really go very well together, right? And you have your apple greens and your yellows, mustards, they go very well together. So things like purples, then those are your complementary colors. The other aspect is your contrasting colors. Contrasting colors is the colors that are next to one another, but they vary in a degree of tint, or the depth of the color. So these two will be your contrasting colors. These two would be your contrasting colors. I know purple and pink, that is being used everywhere. That is the contrasting colors. A green and a blue, those are contrasting colors. So depending upon what you want, you can actually use this color wheel to come up with particular options. So for example, if I have selected this as a background, that this is I like these colors, or the client gave me this image, or even if the client did not give me any image, the client said that, I like, colors which are like muted, or basic muted colors. So what you can do is you can take an image, and like for me, I just picked up this image from the web, or you can go to their website and then select the colors that they have used in the website, which means that those are the colors that they actually like. So either you can do that, or you can pick something like this up, and you can create two colors. You can create your primary colors, and you can create your accent colors. So these are the colors. Like if you look at my the presentation which I'm using, I have used these colors in this presentation. So that is something that you can actually do. So how do you do that? There is something called color.adobe.com. So initially it was called Adobe Kuler, Kuler, I think, but now they've converted into color.adobe.com. So you just need to have an Adobe account. It's a free account, and you can use this particular website. It looks something like this. So I logged into my website. I logged in using my Adobe ID and password, and you can go to extract theme. It opens like that. You go to extract theme, and then you can upload your image. You can upload any photograph, any image, anything that is a JPEG kind of a format, any image format. And then automatically what color this Adobe Color does is kind of, it uses these 5 or 6 different ways, and it creates a color palette for you automatically. You don't need to do anything. It will just pick up the color palette from there. If you look at this little plus sign around here, you can drag it and you can change the color, and it will kind of reflect right here. So you can use this option, which it gives a colorful, a bright, muted, deep, dark, none. So for the first one is like a colorful one, and the next one which I chose was a dark one. So you can see what you like and what you don't like. So it gives you these options. You can play around with the colors. You can see what suits you best, and then you can publish your color, you can name it, and you can download that as well. So you can download this color palette. You can import that into your PowerPoint, and basically you can use these colors in your PowerPoint as your guidelines. And these ones you can also share with the client, like, this is what I like. Or you can always give them a number of options, like you can give them colorful, muted, and deep and dark. Say, like, which ones do you like, that ways. So even before you've started doing something, and I know, because I've been in projects where we did everything, and then the client was like, oh no, I don't like the color of this particular element. So now all those 40, 50, 60, 100, 200 slides, you have to go back and you have to start, redesigning and reworking on that. So this kind of really helps, because you are giving the client a number of options to use from, and see, like, this is how you can use it. Do you want this or not? And they can visually see. This is the basic thing. Why do I always create PowerPoint storyboards before I go into development? Let the client see what everything will look like, because they don't know what everything is going to look like. They have no idea, but they know, they have a basic idea of how they would want it to look, if you get what I'm saying. So these are certain things that we as IDs can do, so as to ensure that our work is easier when we do the production. So that's like, you can create a color scheme, you can download it, and you're kind of done with that. So again, another thing that I have seen nowadays is color contrasts. Like, some of our courses have to be 501 compliant, so we have to ensure that the colors that we are using, they are visible to all the learners, irrespective of which spectrum they belong to. So this is one website that I use, color.a11y.com. So basically, ali.com, you can use this to check the color contrast between your foreground and your background. So if you have, images that you are using, or if you have these particular color palettes that you're using, you can use this particular website. How? So we'll see the next one. So over here, see, if my background color, you put in the hex value right here, and it gives you this ratio. It's like 2.18 is to 1. So it says like a strict no. And it says, this failed on this, it's failed on this. So it kind of gives you a very, very detailed analysis of why your colors are not good. So this way, even before you have started, because this happened with me once, I had used like these muted colors, and I used white font on top. This was like way early when I started. So the client was like, we can't see, because they had their monitors, I don't know, turned around to a low visibility or something. The brightness was not good, and half of the time they could not read what I had written. So for that, I think this is one thing that I usually do that. I come over here and I check whether my font and my foreground and my background, do they have a good contrast. So even if you are using color, the contrast from your color wheel, you can come here and you can say, if I want to use, say, orange and a red, so what will the contrast look like? If I'm using an orange background and a red text, it'll be bad. But if you're using a complementary, for example, a blue background and an orange text, the contrast will be good. So using, you have to combine all these little elements together to kind of come up with your visual design, visual color scheme, which you will be using for your particular storyboard. So again, I'll be sharing all these links. I'll be sharing this presentation, so you can either type it in and see what it looks like, or after the presentation you can just go and see what these things look like. And I'm sure some of you might be using these as well to design any of your courses. So this would be the color contrasts. Now comes the typography. So typography includes everything that has to do with text. What is the font size? What is the font color? What does the not the color? What style is it? What is the size? What type of fonts are we using? So basically, just to give you a very short run through, we have the serif fonts and we have the sans serif fonts. The serif fonts are the ones which have these little icons right here. These little things right here, which are protruding items. So this is the serif, especially L, K, D, B. These are some of the letters that you'll see that have the serif. And the sans serif, obviously, sans means without. So they don't have that. Now, when we are kind of using our web, most of our courses are not text-based, book-based, but they are web-based. So what we should do, that we should try using the sans serif fonts, because it's like easier to read on devices such as phones or tablets. So mobile nowadays, we are using a lot of mobile-based applications and mobile-based learning. So sans serif, it's like easier to use. You can always create a, you can always use a mix of the serif and the sans serif. It's not that you cannot use serif fonts, you can, because you need to keep it interesting as well. You can't keep everything together. So there are three sections in which I divide my fonts before I start writing content. The first one would be, headers, titles, subtitles. So you choose one particular font which which you will use for your headers, for your titles, and for your subtitles. So it can be anything. It can be any type of font which you choose. But remember, it has to be bold. It has to be big. So it should look good when it kind of blows up. The second would be my actual, the body text. So and if there are any notes, if there are any alert text, if there are any tips you want to give, so all that comes within the body text, the second part. So primary colors, so these are the different types of fonts that you can use, so you can see like what everything looks like. And finally, there are these, like, this is the chiller, this is like I think anonymous clippings, and this is like your 28 days later font. This, I really like this font. So these ones you can always use to add an impact. So something which is completely like, just if it's like a wow element that adds to your particular storyboard. So you can always use these three categories of your fonts, and you can decide what you want for your storyboard. Mostly, since they are web based, so Garamond, Verdana, Tahoma, Arial, and Calibri. These are and Century Gothic at times. Like this one is Century Gothic. So most of the times, these are the ones that I tend to use for my courses, because they are like very easy to read on the eyes as well. Even if you are looking at your mobile phone and you are looking at stuff, so these ones becomes like really easy to read. So that would be a typography. So what color, what styles are you going to use, and what everything you're going to use. Now everything has to come together. How? So there is this another app which I use, envisionapp.com. So basically, this is another this is a free. You can create up to 6 boards, vision boards, which are, it's like free. After that, yes, you need to kind of pay for that. But at least I think for me 6 works well, because I can delete the ones that I've already used. The projects over, and I create a new one. So that's like Envision. So what Envision does is, that I can hear myself. Yeah. So what Envision does is it kind of organizes everything for you. So you can, this I usually use to present to the client. So either I can send them my presentation as a PowerPoint, or I can put everything in one place. So I can have, this allows me to include various sections. So I can see slides for navigation. So I add all my slides right here. And then I can create a color palette section where I can add all these colors right here. Then I can add a style guide, which basically says the main menu style. If you look, the module title, the title text, the body text, module numbers, menu items, sub navigation, and start resume buttons. So everything is right here. So the client can actually see exactly what I am going to do even before I have started building my storyboard. This helps me, because then at times, if they say, you've completed the entire storyboard, and they say, oh no, I don't like Arial, can we have Calibri, or can we have Arial narrow? That creates a lot of problem, because now I have to go back, look through each and every element and change it. If you miss something, that's not very pleasing to look at. And it wastes basically a lot of time. So that's why the style guide kind of brings everything together. So what the content will be like, what the quiz will be like, what the font styles will be, and what the main menu style will be. So if everything kind of comes together, now if you look, if the client is looking at the colors, if the client is looking at my slides, what type of slides I'm going to use, if they're looking at the style guide, they have a very good idea of what I am doing with their course, like at least the visual, the visual way. So this is how you create your style guide. You add everything up. You can create this on a sheet of paper, in an Excel file or a Word file. I mean, whatever works for you, I think. But the best thing is put everything together using InVision.com, that app, that build a board for the client, and you can share that board. Send them a link and ask them. So they can go in, they can go to the website and they can actually see, and they can comment on each slide, whether they like it or not. So that's another way of gaining the feedback even before you have actually started working on it. So that helps, because then you'll know exactly what to do. So that's how you kind of create a style guide. So these are the basic elements. So what we have covered like what the identifiers are. So identifiers, we went like the quiz slides, the knowledge check slides, the objective slides, and all that. Then we saw what were the elements, what were the parts of a slide, the OST, the visualization notes, the frame set, the slide numbers, slide identifiers. And then we saw how to create a color palette using the color wheel, in which we can create primary colors, we can create accent colors, and we can use Adobe Color, adobe.color.adobe.com for that. We can upload photographs, we can upload any images, we can use Adobe to extract a number of color schemes that we can download and we can import in our PowerPoint. Then we can use the color contraster ali.com, and we can see whether our foreground and background text and background colors will match, whether they will look good. We can also see whether they are 501 compliant or not. And we can build our fonts. We have three sections. We have the headers, the titles, the subtitles. Then we have the body text, and finally we have our the third, which is like the wow factor fonts, I call them. So those are the three ways in which we can kind of organize the fonts that we are going to use. And using InVision, basically we can show the client the type of slides we've done using the identifier slides. We can use the color palettes. We can show them what colors are we using. And finally, we can use this particular the style guide where we define what font styles we're going to use. So this kind of this is part one, which I have completed. So if you have any questions, so please, you can type them in the chat box. So I see there like Aparajita has said, question one, difference in level one and level two storyboards. Yes. So Aparajita, basically level one and level two, it's not the difference in the storyboards. Elements remain the same. It depends on what level of course are you defining. So a level one course, basically your storyboard will have, 75% slides that will be static slides. So those slides will only have visuals, and it will be like a click through, a flip book kind of a thing. And only 25% of that will be your interaction slides. So when you are building a storyboard, and if it's like a level one storyboard somebody wants, if you are building 40 slides, because 40 slides roughly translates to one learning hour. So 40 slides, you have to ensure that out of those 40 slides, if you remove the content, if you remove the the course introduction and the objective and the summary and the knowledge check, you have approximately 30 content slides available. So from that 30, ensure 75% of those 30 slides are your static slides. They have beautiful visuals coming, and the remaining 25%, those ones, they have your interactions. So that way you can kind of split up your storyboard. Now someone says, I want a level 2 storyboard. What do? You convert out of those 75%, you pull out another 25% and make it 50-50. So 50% of your slides will be your static slides, and 50% of your slides will have some kind of interaction with them. Level 3 course, it's just a flip of a level 1. 75% has to be interaction, and only 25% will be your static slides. And level 4 is your gamification, where it's completely everything is a game. There are no static slides. So Aparajita, does that answer your question? You can, all right. So Zaki had another question. He said, would the developer who picks up the storyboard build the interactions exactly like you have built them in the storyboard? Yes, Zachary. That is the main point of our storyboard, because we know that as an ID, what interaction do I want? I know if the learner is going to click this has to happen. The developer does not have the perspective of how the content should look like. For them, it's just like taking this circle over here, clicking it, and then moving forward. Yes. So we have to, all right. So that's why that's why the visualization notes, Zachary, always remember, Zaki, use them to the fullest. Tell them exactly what you want to do. When first the learner has to click one OST, then they have to click two OST. As the more detailed you are, the better chances you have that in the review cycle, it'll be less of a pain for us. One learning hour means 1 hour of learning. Yes, Aparajita, one learning hour, and it roughly translates to 40 slides. So that's the kind of thing that I use. So any other questions? Then we can move on to the next section, which is your visual design. So now we come. Can you guide on SP development? Yeah, if we have the time, then definitely I can just show you like a small sample of how you can do that. All right, according to the time you're saying. All right. We'll see. We'll try to fit that. Yeah, Martha, the identifiers basically are your. Just let me quickly go back. Identifier. Yeah. So Martha, these are the identifiers. Your course introduction slide, the welcome, the objectives. Oh no. These are the elements. Sorry. The identifiers will be. Yeah. This section over here, whether it's a content slide, whether it's a frame set slide, whether it's an objective slide, whether it's a summary slide, whether it's a review slide. So those are the identifiers. Yes, I'll definitely be posting everything. Oh, how long it will take to storyboard? Well, basically a level 1 storyboard, if it should take not more than uh, I think it's like 40 hours. I will share that. There's this Chapman, I think you might have heard of it, the Chapman's Alliance. So that's a PowerPoint. It's a free PowerPoint. I will upload that also. So basically, it kind of gives you, for every storyboard, whichever number of learning hours, how much time you have to kind of divide it task wise. So I think for level 1, it's like around 40 hours. So it's like a week. For level 2, it becomes a low level 2, it's like around 80 hours. And a high level 2, it's like around 100 to 120 hours. And then for a level 3, it moves from 140 plus hours, like the basic level 3s. I will be uploading these resources on Facebook. I have Techni's webpage on Facebook. So I will be sharing that link in the instructional designers group. And so you can click on that and it'll take you to that page where all these resources will be uploaded. So you can just download from there. All right. So we can come to visual design. So what is visual design? Again, the first part of the storyboard was the functional aspect. How does the storyboard function? And what all are the elements, what all are the identifiers, what all are the parts. Based on the content outline, how do sketch design the structure of the storyboard initially? Yeah. So Priyanka, what usually we try to do is that using the identifiers, right? So when you design your content outline, you have a basic idea of this is my ID strategy, which I'm going to use for my content. So therefore, I know exactly for this particular content, I have, this type of interaction. I want to use some type of interaction. Or for example, this content, I wanted to use a scenario-based interaction. So when you have your identifiers, so you will start adding slides in the structure in that blank PowerPoint presentation and just label them. This is a content slide, this is a content slide, and just like maybe even copy paste the name of the topic over there. So that way you have to open your content outline on one side, a PowerPoint template on the other with all these identified slides in place, and then just start kind of mapping out that this is my content slide. All right, content slide 1, topic A, content slide 2, interaction A, content slide 3, sorry, topic 3, content slide frame set. So that way you can kind of open your content outline on one side and the PowerPoint template on the other using these identifiers. That's why I say always begin with, creating a empty structure with these identifiers. So you will have your, and in order. So you will have your course introduction, then you will have your objective slide, you will have the topic maybe separator, then you'll have your main menu, then you'll have your content slide, then you have your review, and then you have your summary, and then you can kind of start filling the gaps. So does that answer your question, Priyanka? Oh, so yeah, I'll be sharing the link, Zaki. I'll share everything after the presentation. I'll do everything. So visual design. So for this, I use the book. I don't know. I think some of you must have read this book, the Non-Designer's Design Book. And initially, when I read Robin Williams, I was like, wow, Robin Williams is like so talented. I mean, like, RIP. I thought that he's an actor, like a amazing actor, a legend, and then he also writes. So I thought this was the same Robin Williams, like the one who acts in movies. Anyways, so I was like, no, 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 it's not the same. When I read the book, so I used this book basically. I read this book, and there were 4 design principles that she talks about. So the first one is your contrast, your repetition, alignment, and proximity. Now, this is the design part of your storyboard. We can have amazing graphics, we can have a color scheme in place, we can have a slide identifiers in place, we can have everything in place. But now, when the part comes of how to design anything, that's what we have to. That's the main thing. So she says that you have to avoid elements on the page that are merely similar. So, for example, if you are using Calibri and if you are using Arial, if you look at those two type of texts, they are like nearly the same. They won't much of a difference. But if you are using, say, Calibri, and if you are using something like, like I showed you the anonymous clippings, remember the one which had like these little images. Suddenly, there's a distinct, feature. You can actually identify like, this is so different. Even for this, I'll show you the purpose why I have designed this like that, this particular slide like that. You'll see in the next slide. Then is your repetition. Repeat visual elements to develop organization and strengthen unity. So if you paid attention when I was sharing the different slides, did anyone notice those 3 triangles like they were on the right hand side? They were like appearing everywhere, right? So that is your repetition or your breadcrumbs. Like we want to know the learner, we want the learner to know exactly where they are in the course. So what do? We kind of create an image, or maybe like there are 4 sections that they are working on. The first section we highlight that and have that little flower or whatever on top of the screen, and we highlight that. So as they move on to the next one, then the other one gets highlighted. So that way, that is an element that we are repeating, so that one, the learner is aware of where they are at all times. Because believe me, as an adult learner, I want to be in control at all times. That is the main aspect, that we, the learners, always want to be they want to be in control. So using these repetitions, using these visual elements, you can actually kind of bring that cohesiveness to your class. Then alignment. Create visual connection and establish clean lines between elements to create a sophisticated look. Now, if you look at this, that is why center align is not a good idea. I mean, unless and until it is imperative that you use center alignment for whatever. I mean, either use a left or a right. In fact, if you use a right alignment, that is a much stronger line of designing that you can use, even more than the left. And finally, proximity. Closely group related items related to one another to ensure a coherent look, and that they become as one visual unit. Now, for example, if I kind of grouped everything together, if I didn't leave any, or I decrease the space between this, it would be difficult for me to even read it aloud. And if you have a content which has an image, and it has 3 or 4 bullet points, and then it has like a little tip associated with it, and that tip has some text, and it also has an icon. So you see, there are so many different elements. So either you can place them all over the place, And for example, you need to include content which has this, as well as another topic or another content piece which has the same things, and you need to place it in the same slide. So what would you do? So you have to closely group these items together so that the learners actually know that these things are related to this and these things are related to that. So that is what she means by proximity. So this is the same slide, the same content, which I have designed using the design principles. So if you look at this font is completely different from this font. So that's the first one, that your font has to be this thing. Contrast. Avoid elements on the page that are merely similar. These two might be similar because yes, they are the same style, the same font, but this one is italics and this one is what, irregular. This font is completely different. Repeat. Repetition. Repeat visual elements. I am over here, I don't have any much of a visual element, but maybe this color, if you see, I'm just using this strategy to kind of drive the learner's eye to the main elements on my screen. See, why do we need to, you can include as many fancy graphics, as many fancy images as you want to, but as long as they are not, the learner is kind of confused when they look at the screen and they don't know where to look, so we failed as instructional designers. So use your visual elements to guide the eye of the learner across the screen. That is what you do as an ID. We know we develop content, we have amazing content, it's like so good. But if the learner is unable to grasp that content when he or she or them look at the screen, I mean, that's it's not, it doesn't work like that, right? So using our design, using our visual elements, we have to ensure contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. We are the ones who have to drive the eye of the learner on that screen. What do you want them to see first? What do you want them to see last? How do you want them to look at the entire screen? Do you want them to look at the left side first or the right side first? For example, if you look at that screen, maybe some of you notice this little guy over here, or some of you notice like this alignment. So you see, this is the alignment that we were talking about. There is a visual, there's this nice, clean left edged line, which you're seeing right here. It doesn't matter. Over here, they're not aligning. That is fine. But at least one side is aligning. I could have made everything right aligned where everything moved right here. So that is another way I could have done it. Right. So this is one way in which you can actually, align your content and keep everything closely grouped together. Use contrast. Again, go back to the color wheel. Use contrasting colors, use complementary colors, and use ali.com to see whether they look good or not. So that is, and always use, don't make them similar. If they are different, make them really different, or use the same font. Don't use similar fonts because it makes the work look very, very messy, I feel. I mean, that's my opinion. So that would be the first part. Now the second part is like, what type of style or content do we use when we have what type of visual design do we use when we have a particular type of content, right? So for this, I don't know whether you've heard about Dan Rome's Napkin Academy. I think some of you might have. So the Napkin Academy, he's like so good with images and all that. He helps you draw. I'm very bad at drawing. I don't have the the designer's drawing thing. So it really helped me to kind of refine my storyboards. So there are particular things that he kind of identifies. So I am going to use this. There's time, flow sequence, difference, the compare and contrast type of content, and the relationship, where is the structure subsystem. And then you have your schematic type of content, whether it's an abstract content, where it's a logical content, or where the learner has to kind of think to do it in a particular way. Then you have your metaphors, where it's like more of an emotional aspect that you're dealing with, and you kind of engaging, you kind of touching the heart aspect of the learner, something with especially with courses like, for example, Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, where you're talking about, like how, or maybe UNICEF, for example, where you're talking about child hungers. So if you've seen the imagery that they use, they show an image of a child, with some food in their hand. So somehow that tugs, your heartstrings, and you're like, oh my God. So those are the kind of reactions, and those are the kind of things that even we as instructional designers can use, to kind of, put forth our content. And then you have your practical, like DIY or literal, literal things that you have to do this. So let's see examples of each. So if it's a time flow sequence, which has to be schematic, abstract, logical thinking, you can use flow diagrams. So they are not the only ones, but these are some of the ways in which we can actually, split our content and see which slide, what type of visual design should I build for what type of content. So if there's a sequence, I can build a flow chart. I can build, I can use something like that. If it's a difference, if it's a compare or contrast, I can usually use, a bar graph to compare stuff, or I can use a Venn diagram, or if it's a relation or a substructure. For example, if it's a logical kind of thing, so hierarchies, this is one very good example of a structure or subsystem. Then for the metaphor, you know if it's a time flow or sequence, yes, a roadmap. This is one of the best ways we can do that. For example, if the learner is, you want to motivate people, that you have to do this, or they have to take this course or whatever, onboarding or whatever course you might be working on, compliance. So you can use images like this, also you're nearly there, all right, you're starting here, and then a little thing comes up and says, hey, wait, you've accomplished task one, now let's go get on to task two and stuff like that. Then the next would be your in which you are comparing, contrasting. So for example, our organization, is it more of a machine type of an organization, or do we want to convert it into an organic culture? So these are just ways in which you can actually compare and contrast using imagery. So these are again metaphors. You don't have to use the exact, because the organization, yes, we know it's not a old fashioned pickup truck or a tree, but we just want to portray some kind of metaphor, some kind of logical, emotional, sorry, aspect to that. And then your relationship. So for example, over here we are saying that a subsystem, the sun is the main system, and then you have this little, you have the earth and the moon going around it. So this is kind of a subsystem which you can kind of use, to explain, for example, gravity or planets to a child. Like, this is the main system, and then these are the various systems, and this is how you can do it. So that ways you can actually use these kind of images. And then for the practical ones, again, time flow sequence, storyboards, best ways that you can do it. Have these little boxes saying first this happens, then this guy goes there, and then something happens, and then ultimately this happens. So storyboard, not this storyboard, the PowerPoint storyboard, but within your content, you might have a story that you're trying to tell. So rather than using anything else, you can actually use this kind of a format to show that information. Then you have your before and after. Before you do this, this happens, and after you do this, this happens. So that ways you can use this kind over here. And finally, the exploded diagrams. If you've looked at these engineering courses, so they have these things which kind of blow up suddenly. So this is one way in which you can explain a subsystem. Like for example, you want to explain the workings of how a mobile phone works. So you can use this exploded diagrams, and you can make this interactive. You can say click on each to kind of learn more, right? So that way you can have multiple layers. The learner clicks on something, and then they can go and they can they can see that stuff. So these are some of the visual designs that we can use in conjunction with our the styles, designing aspects, our color schemes, our slide types, and everything, so that we can actually kind of build an amazing storyboard which kind of meets or exceeds, I would say, the client expectations. So there's another one. It says mind your space. So I have seen, initially I was part of that group where I wanted to use all the real estate on my slide. I didn't like leaving white space. That, oh no, why should I? It's not looking good. So for example, if you look at this slide, we have an avatar right here, and we have images right here. We have text. We have these headers right here. Then we have these little icons right here. We have the main menu and this bar stretching across right here. And then we have this. It looks good. It's not that it looks bad, but it's kind of very busy. So as IDs, also when you're visually designing, ensure that your slide has some space. It has some kind of space. So the same thing, what I can do. Now suddenly you see the difference from here. It's the same thing. What did I do? I removed this line from here. I don't need the entire thing. I can just say main menu. The learner is going to know. I can increase the gap between them. I can remove these little icons which are right there, and I can remove the avatar. So it's simply by just removing a couple of elements, I can actually make my storyboard or my slide look visually more appealing and more clear and clean. So it says white space is your friend. So I realized that yes, white space is my friend. So I try to use a lot of white background in my. I leave a lot of white space in my storyboards. All right. So I think that kind of covers everything I had planned for today. So are there any questions? I know this might have gone a little fast because each topic in itself is like it's like a big topic by itself. How to design stuff and how to convert content into a storyboard, which is like another big topic in itself. But I tried to do my best. And are there any questions? Thank you, Doretta. I'm glad that you found the pace was good. I was worried I was too fast. Thank you, Zaki. Thank you, Daryl. All right. So if you have any questions, I will be sharing this content. Thank you so much, Anita. Thank you, Jessica. So I'll be sharing the links, the content, as well as some slides, some presentations. They are free. They are free, and the recording for this particular webinar will be available. So anyone who has kind of missed the initial part, yes, I will be sharing the recording. I will be sharing this presentation, and these. If you saw these, let me tell you these slides. These ones. I'll be sharing the PowerPoints where I have actually built these PowerPoints out. So there are two separate PowerPoints which have a couple of templates. They're already in there. So you can actually download them. You can reuse them any way you want to. So these are free to use. They are not copyrighted. You want to change the colors, you want to use them as is, please feel free to do that. I mean, like there is no copyright or whatever. So I've just created these, so you can modify them, you can change them, and whichever way you want. And yeah, so even these ones, if you want to change the colors, you want to change the styles, you can just do that. All right. So I will be sharing this after this session, and I'll be posting the link in the instructional designers group. And thank you so much, everyone, for giving me your time. I hope this was useful. And in future, if you need if you want like if you want me to take any other session pertaining to any particular topic that you found kind of interesting, or you would want more information about that, so please just let me know. You can send me a message or something, and if there are enough people who kind of interested in that, I'll definitely set up another group for that, and we can actually do that. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate that you came here. And the recording will be available, and I'll be posting that soon. All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye.